Did you know that the Met Office has been using AI techniques since the 1970s? The very first weather forecasts were made using synoptic charts. These were summaries of the weather conditions around the UK, communicated by telegram and then compiled into a chart like this one. Early meteorologists started recognizing patterns in these charts, and given the past few days' charts, could roughly predict what tomorrow's would look like, and so what the weather would be doing. But about the same time, people started working out the equations describing how the atmosphere flows as a fluid. And in theory, if you know those equations and the current state of the atmosphere, you can roll the equations forward in time and predict the future state of the atmosphere. We call this numerical weather prediction. And this is something you could in theory do with pencil and paper. In fact, a guy called Lewis Fry Richardson tried to do exactly this in 1922. It took him 6 weeks by hand working out a weather forecast for 6 hours' time. And he also got it completely wrong. But with the development of digital computers in the 1950s, numerical weather prediction became possible, and the Met Office made its first experimental forecast this way in 1952 and operational forecasts in 1972. But there was a catch. The problem was that the interactions between the atmosphere and the land and the ocean are really complicated, and the computers at the time had really limited memory. So meteorologists had to simplify complex equations describing the atmosphere down to relatively simple equations, with their behavior controlled by a couple of key numbers, what we call parameters. They would make a prediction using their simplified model and then compare it to how the weather actually turned out, the difference between their prediction and the observations being the error. Informed by that error, they would then tweak their parameters, changing their values slightly so that their next prediction should have a slightly smaller error. Do this over and over again over lots of predictions, and you end up with a simple model that captures the complex behavior of a system quite accurately. And this is exactly how AI are trained. Under the hood of models like GPT-5, there's a bunch of parameters. Parameters that have been automatically tuned to fit complex training data, such that they can take a relatively simple model and make a prediction about a complex system. The Met Office did the same thing. It was just their training data was the way the atmosphere behaves. And of course, as computer hardware has improved, the models themselves can now be much more complicated. Between parameter tuning and more powerful computers, the Met Office forecasts have improved dramatically. And the Met Office are still world-leading in their use of AI in this use case, both under the hood of their models, representing complex systems relatively simply, but also in helping their meteorologists make sense of the vast data output of their models and translating it into helpful advice. And arguably, they've actually been doing the AI thing since the 1860s, because all AI does is pattern recognition, but they've at least been world leaders in this field for 50 years. Because